I told him he was ugly at a preparty, but I didn't expect him to go this far and do this.
Hello, Reddit. Throwaway account, yeah, because this is probably the most humiliating thing I've ever done, and I definitely do not want to associate it with my main. I'm still cringing as I write this, still trying to process just how horribly I messed up. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to fix my relationship. I feel like I'm on the verge of losing something truly special, and I'm terrified. I know Reddit can be brutal with its responses, and part of me is not ready to face what might be said, but I have to get this off my chest. I need help. I need advice on how to fix the mess I've created. So here it is. Let me just unload and rant for a bit. My name is Camila. I'm 29 years old, and my husband, we're just going to call him Troy for the sake of anonymity, is also 29. We've been married for about 3 years now, but we've actually been together since high school. Yeah, we're one of those couples, high school sweethearts and all that. Troy has always been, and still is, an absolutely amazing partner. You know the kind of guy who seems too good to be true? That's him. He's the romantic kind, the guy who does all the sweet, thoughtful gestures without being asked. He's always been the one who's there for me, no matter what. Whether it's something trivial or something serious, Troy's the first person I turn to. And the thing is, he's always put me first. He's never been selfish, never complained about it. He'll drop anything if I need him, and he goes out of his way to make me happy. He takes care of me in ways I didn't even realize I needed until he came into my life. I know it sounds cliché, but I'm really not exaggerating when I say he's one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And yet the painful truth is, I never appreciated it enough. I've always known how lucky I am to have Troy. He's the kind of partner most people spend their whole lives searching for. Kind, caring, thoughtful, and basically everything you could ever want in a person. The kind who doesn't just love you in words, but shows it through actions, in the small, consistent ways that matter most. But despite knowing all of that, I guess I've taken him for granted. Maybe it's because we've been together for so long, since we were just kids in high school, that I've somehow grown to expect that he'll always be there. Always being the one to pick up the pieces when things go wrong, always making sure I'm okay, always doing all those little things that made me fall in love with him in the first place. I got so used to it, so used to him putting me first, that it almost became automatic. It's like I assumed he'd keep doing those things no matter what, as if it was his job to make me happy. In a way, it's like I forgot that he's human, that he has feelings and limits, and that I could actually hurt him. I never stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, he'd get tired of always being the one to give, that he might feel taken for granted. I think I let myself believe that because he never really complained, because he always had this calm, understanding demeanor, that he was okay with it. I thought he'd always just brush things off, keep smiling through it no matter what. But now, after what I did, I realize that Troy is human, and my actions have consequences. I've been so caught up in being the center of his world, in being loved unconditionally, that I never truly considered how much power my words and actions have over him. I never thought about the toll it might take on him. And now that I've crossed a line I can't uncross, I'm left wondering if I've destroyed something that can't be fixed. It's almost like a cruel irony. The very person who made me feel so loved, so safe, is the one I ended up hurting the most. And the worst part is, I don't even know if I deserve him anymore. I don't know if I deserve his kindness, his forgiveness, or the second chances he's given me in the past. This time I went too far. This time it's not just something I can brush off with an apology. It's deeper than that, and I know it. I can't help but hate myself for being so careless. I had something good, something so rare, and I threw it away like it meant nothing. And now I'm terrified that I've lost it forever. So the issue is, Troy has never been conventionally attractive. And I don't mean that in a superficial way, at least I hope it doesn't come off that way, but it's the truth. He's got a beautiful soul, truly. He's the kind of person who would drop everything to help someone, always putting others before himself, and he's been an amazing husband. But I've always struggled with this unspoken, shallow shame about how he looks, and it's something I'm so ashamed to even admit. I know how horrible it sounds, and trust me, I feel guilty even saying this out loud. But it's true. There's this little voice in the back of my mind that, for as long as we've been together, has made me feel embarrassed, ashamed even, because Troy isn't the kind of guy that people look at twice when we walk into a room together. It's not like I go around consciously thinking about it, but it's there. This undercurrent of feeling like he's not good enough physically, even though he's more than enough in every other way that matters. He's not someone who stands out by society's standards. He's not tall, not traditionally handsome, and doesn't have those striking features you see in magazines or social media. And for the longest time, I didn't care about that, or at least I thought I didn't. But over time, I realized I've been holding on to this shallow part of me that does care, more than I should, and I've let it affect how I treat him. When we first started dating, I never thought about his looks that much. We were high school sweethearts, and back then, it didn't seem to matter. We were young, and it was all about being in love, having fun, and growing together. But as we got older and life started to move forward, those insecurities about how others see us, how they see him, started creeping in. I started noticing the glances from people, or at least I thought I did. Maybe it was all in my head, but it felt real, like when we'd be at a party, or even just out in public, and I could feel people looking at us, at him, and wondering how we ended up together. It's like there was this growing discomfort inside me, this sense that I wanted to be proud to show him off, but instead, I found myself avoiding situations where his appearance might be a topic of judgment. If we were at social events, I'd make jokes about his looks, little jabs that, in the moment, felt harmless or playful, but deep down, I know they were masking my insecurity. I'd laugh it off, brush it away, and he'd laugh with me. But every time I could feel something tearing just a little bit in our relationship. I think the worst part of it all is that I've let this insecurity turn into cruelty, something I didn't even fully realize until recently. I've mocked him, publicly, privately, about not being photogenic, about how his style doesn't fit the kind of image I want, even about how people might perceive us together. It's awful, and it's something that has driven a wedge between us, even if he hasn't fully expressed how much it's hurt him, but I know it has. There were moments, like when we'd take group pictures, where I'd make some stupid comment about how Troy always ruins the photos, or how he's just not camera-friendly, and it would get a few chuckles, but I'd see him wince, just for a second. Or when we were with friends, and the topic of physical attraction would come up, and I'd casually mention and joke that I didn't exactly marry Troy for his looks. It was meant as a joke, but I could feel the tension in him every time I said things like that. What makes this even worse is that I've always known, on some level, that he's insecure about his appearance. He's never said much about it, but I can see it in the way he shies away from mirrors, the way he doesn't like having his photo taken, or the way he never quite believes me when I tell him he looks good, which I rarely do, to be honest. I failed him in that way, and now that I'm finally admitting it, I realize just how deep the damage goes. I've taken advantage of how kind and forgiving he is. I've allowed my own insecurities about how others might perceive us to overshadow the truth of who he is, and who he is so much more important than anything as superficial as looks. He's the man who has stood by me through everything, who always puts me first, and who loves me without question, flaws and all. And here I am, tearing him down for something that's so shallow, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. I wish I could go back and undo all the times I've hurt him, all the moments I've let my vanity and my fear of judgment get in the way of truly appreciating him. I know now that I've been the one who's not good enough, not him, and I don't even know how to start fixing the damage I've caused. I am a stay-at-home wife now, but before that I used to work in an office. Back then I had this life outside of Troy, my career, my coworkers, my social media presence, all of which I kept separate from him. The truth is, I refused to let Troy be a part of any of it. I refused to bring him to any work events, anything that would involve mingling with my coworkers or bosses. It wasn't because he didn't want to come or because he wasn't supportive of me. It was because I was ashamed. I didn't want my coworkers to know him, to see him, and worst of all, to know that he was my husband. I realize how horrible that sounds. Even now, writing this, I'm cringing at the truth, but that's what it was. I was ashamed of how he looked. And I didn't want that part of my life, the one where people knew me professionally, to mix with my life with Troy. I made sure to keep the two worlds as far apart as possible. It wasn't just the work events. I took it further. I wouldn't even let my coworkers follow me on my main social media accounts. I created this fake barrier, this online version of myself that didn't include Troy at all. It was easier to give them some flimsy excuse, tell them I was private or selective with who I let follow me. But the real reason was that I didn't want anyone who knew me professionally to come across the photos I'd been tagged in, the ones where Troy and I were together, and then put two and two together, that this man was my husband. The few photos I had posted were all old, before I started distancing myself from showing Troy online. And as for the newer ones, I outright refused to post them. Whenever he'd ask me why I didn't share photos of us, I would brush it off, tell him that he wasn't photogenic, or that his looks didn't fit the aesthetic I wanted to maintain online. It's awful to admit, but I told him that his appearance didn't match the image I wanted to project, and he believed me. What hurts the most now, looking back, is how much Troy accepted those little jabs, how he internalized what I was saying and tried not to make it a big deal. I was essentially telling him every time I made one of those excuses that he wasn't good enough to be seen with me, and somehow he just swallowed that without arguing, without pushing back. He trusted me, and I used that trust to hide him away, all because I was insecure about how other people might judge us. And it wasn't just my coworkers. Even with my friends, the ones who weren't mutual friends with Troy, I was hesitant to introduce him. I had this particular group of friends, my more superficial ones, the ones who loved to comment on appearances and always seemed obsessed with how someone looked. And every time we had a gathering, I would make excuses for why Troy couldn't come. When I did have to bring him along, I was always on edge, worried about what they'd say or think. I never directly told Troy about this worry, but it hung over me every time we were in social situations with that group. I felt embarrassed, even though they never said anything openly. I'd catch myself subtly distancing myself from him, as if not standing too close or not holding his hand would somehow make me less connected to him in their eyes. I thought I was being discreet, but I was probably as transparent as glass. I'd avoid public displays of affection with him, especially when we were around people I knew would judge. I wouldn't hold his hand in public, wouldn't stand too close to him. I justified it to myself as being respectful of personal space or not wanting to be too coupley in front of others. But the truth was, I didn't want anyone to see us together and make the connection that I was with someone who didn't meet society's standards of attractiveness. I wasn't just ashamed of Troy, I was ashamed of myself. Ashamed of the person I'd become, someone who was so concerned about what others thought that I couldn't even stand by the man who loved me unconditionally. It's not just that I was insecure about how Troy looked. My insecurity ran deeper than that. I was terrified of being judged, of not fitting into the image I had built for myself. And I let that fear drive a wedge between us. The worst part is, Troy never once made me feel ashamed of myself. He never criticized me, never made me feel like I wasn't good enough. He was always proud of me, always supportive, always the first to compliment me or cheer me on. And what did I do in return? I hid him away, treated him like some kind of secret that I didn't want anyone to find out about. I let my own insecurities dictate how I treated him, and in doing so, I hurt the one person who was always there for me. Now, thinking about all the times I distanced myself from him, all the times I made excuses or refused to bring him along, it makes me sick. I see how wrong I was, how I let my own vanity and fear of judgment get in the way of what should have been a loving, supportive partnership. I took Troy's love and loyalty for granted, and instead of being proud to be with him, I let my own shame poison our relationship. I wish I could take it all back. I wish I could go back to every work event, every social gathering, every photo I refused to post, and just be proud of Troy, be proud of us. But I can't. All I can do now is admit how wrong I was and hope that, somehow, I can find a way to fix this. I guess Troy was finally done with me. All this time I thought I could say whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and he'd just take it. He's always been calm, collected, never the type to lose his temper. I had known him since high school, and that's just who Troy was, the guy who would quietly smile, shake his head, and let me be. I was the emotional one in our relationship, the one who wore my heart on my sleeve, who'd get upset and snap when things didn't go my way. Troy was supposed to be my anchor, the one who never let anything faze him. I think, deep down, I believed that no matter what I said or did, he would always be there. I thought he loved me enough to overlook everything. I thought he would never snap, never get tired of me. But I was wrong. I pushed him too far, and it finally happened. He snapped. The one thing I never imagined possible, Troy standing up to me, calling me out, became my reality during a pre-party with our friends. We were all hanging out, drinking, laughing, the usual stuff. I was feeling good, riding the high of the night, and then I made the mistake of taking it too far. I started to playfully mock Troy's appearance, something I had done before, thinking it was just another joke, just another laugh to be had. I didn't think much of it at first. I made an offhand comment about him being ugly. It wasn't supposed to be taken seriously, at least that's what I told myself. The worst part was that our friends laughed. It only encouraged me. I doubled down, joking that I obviously didn't marry him for his looks, and the laughter continued. But as the words left my mouth, something shifted. It was like I crossed an invisible line that I hadn't even realized was there. The laughter from our friends started to fade. It became this awkward, uncomfortable silence that filled the room. I could see them slowly realizing how messed up it was, but I didn't stop. I thought I could brush it off, move on to another joke, steer the conversation elsewhere. But then I saw Trey's face. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't even smiling. He just sat there, staring at me. His eyes were hard in a way I'd never seen before. Then before I could say anything else, Trey stood up. I'll never forget the sound of his chair scraping against the floor as he pushed it back. Everyone turned to look at him, and things got even more awkward. Troy told me to shut up. I had never heard him say that to me before. Not like that. His voice was calm, but it was filled with so much hurt and anger. He said he was done. Done with me being a horrible person. Done with me mocking him. He said that if I didn't like how he looked, then I shouldn't be with him. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I had always assumed that no matter how much I teased him, no matter how cruel I got, Trey would never leave. But hearing him say that in front of everyone made it feel real. For the first time, I realized that maybe he could walk away. Maybe I had pushed him to the point where he would actually leave me. He said he was tired of always being the butt of my jokes, tired of hearing me mock him over and over. He said that he knew he wasn't the best-looking guy in the room, and he was okay with that. He said he had made peace with it a long time ago, but then he said something that shattered me. He said he was heartbroken that the person who was supposed to love him, the person who promised to support him, had been the one making him feel like a joke. Our friends didn't know where to look. Some stared down at their drinks, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. No one said a word. The silence was deafening, and in that silence I realized just how badly I had messed up. I wanted to say something, anything, but I was frozen. My mind was racing, trying to come up with the right words, but nothing came. I just sat there staring at him, feeling the weight of what I had done. I had hurt Troy, deeply, and for the first time, I felt the full impact of my cruelty. Troy didn't wait for me to respond. He just left. He walked out of the room, and I was too stunned to follow him. I had to catch a ride home with a friend, and the whole time I felt like I was in a daze. When I got home, Troy wasn't there. I waited for him, thinking he'd come back, that I'd have a chance to apologize, to explain that it was just a joke, that I didn't mean it. But he never came back that night. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, replaying the scene over and over in my head. I thought about all the times I had mocked him, all the little digs and jabs I had made at his appearance. I had thought I was being funny, that it was harmless, but it wasn't. I was so focused on being the funny girlfriend, the one who made everyone laugh, that I never stopped to think about how my words were affecting him. I never considered how much they were hurting him. The next morning, Troy came home to get ready for work. I tried to talk to him, to apologize, but he ignored me. He didn't even look at me. I told him I was sorry, that I hadn't meant to hurt him, but the words felt really hollow, even to me. How do you apologize for something like that? How do you take back years of hurtful comments and cruel jokes? Saying sorry didn't feel like enough. It didn't even come close. Troy didn't respond. He just got ready for work and left without a word. And now I'm left here, wondering how I can ever make this right. I've hurt him in ways I never imagined, and I don't know if he'll ever forgive me. I know things will never be the same between us. I know I've damaged our relationship in a way that might be impossible to fix. But I want to try. I want him to talk to me, to tell me how he feels. I want to apologize, not just with words, but with actions. I want to make it up to him, even though I don't know how. I'm scared that I've lost him for good, scared that no matter what I do, he'll never be able to look at me the same way again. I don't know how to make him realize how sorry I am, how much I regret everything I've said and done, but I know one thing. I love him, and I don't want to lose him. I just don't know if love is enough to fix this. Please, Reddit, what do I do? Update. Hello, Reddit. Damn, I had been expecting to get roasted in the worst possible way. I knew it was coming. I've been around here long enough, abused Reddit for a long time, and I know how brutal it can be. But still, even though I expected it, it was hurtful. Reading all the responses really hit me hard. I get it, though. I know I was wrong. No excuses, no deflection, no justifications. I'm not here to try and make myself seem like a victim or paint a picture where I'm less responsible. I take full responsibility for everything. This whole mess? It's on me. It's my fault, all of it. I should have stopped long ago, but I didn't. I kept pushing, kept mocking, and now I've finally gone too far. I knew it in the moment, and I definitely know it now after reading all the comments. I can't pretend like I didn't see this coming, but hearing it from so many people really made it sink in deeper than I thought it would. And I've seen a lot of comments suggesting that I'm trying to deflect or not take responsibility for what I've done, but that's not the case. I know I'm the one to blame here. I was awful to Troy, and I should have known better. I've been telling myself that for days now, so trust me when I say I get it. Please stop saying I'm not owning up to it. I am, and I have been. I can't turn back time or undo the things I said, but I can try to make it right. A lot of you suggested that I talk to Troy, and that's exactly what I plan to do. Actually, I've been wanting to have this conversation with him ever since that night, but I just didn't know how. I'm going to wait for him to get back from work so we can finally sit down and talk. It's time. It's time to be held accountable for everything. I need to apologize properly, face to face, without any defensiveness or excuses. I owe him that much and more. A couple of friends have reached out to me since that night. I guess they're concerned, wanting to check in, see if Troy and I are okay. I haven't replied to them yet because honestly, I don't even know what to say. What do you say in a situation like this? Sorry I humiliated my husband in front of you guys, but we're working on it. I just don't have the words right now, so I've been ignoring their messages until I figure out what's next. The thing is, before I can face them, I need to face Troy. That's my priority right now. We're going to have a full, honest conversation, like adults, like the married couple we're supposed to be. There's no more running away from it, no more brushing things under the rug or pretending like everything's fine. It's time for me to take responsibility. Fully, not just in words, but in actions. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared. I won't lie, I'm terrified of what he might say, or worse, what he might not say. But I'm ready for whatever comes. I'm ready to apologize, ready to own my mistakes, and ready to face the consequences. I know I can't expect Troy to just forgive me and move on like nothing happened. It's not that simple. But at the very least, I owe him an explanation, a real apology, and the space to tell me exactly how much I've hurt him. I'll update after we talk. Maybe we'll figure something out, or maybe we won't, but at least I'll know that I tried to make things right. This time I won't run from it. Update. Hey Reddit, I said I would update after I had talked to Troy, so here it is. We finally had that conversation, and it didn't go how I hoped it would. He came back from work really late, which I think was deliberate, like he was avoiding coming home. But I waited up for him, and we had a very long talk. It was probably one of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life. I've never seen Troy like that, not smiling at me, not making jokes to lighten the mood. He just looked done. And that feeling, seeing him like that, it made me feel so horrible. I felt like I was going to throw up the entire time. Short version, he doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. He wants a divorce. The long version. Troy said he's just done. He said he's been putting up with my jokes for a long time because he loved me, and he thought they didn't really mean anything. He said he used to laugh them off because he believed I didn't mean to hurt him. But that day at the pre-party, that was the final straw for him. He said it wasn't funny anymore. It stopped being funny a long time ago, and he realized he didn't want to spend his life with someone who made him feel like a joke. Hearing him say that felt like a punch to the gut. I knew I had messed up, but I didn't realize just how deeply I had hurt him until that moment. Troy opened up about how he's always been insecure about his looks. He told me how he was bullied as a kid for not being conventionally attractive, and how it took him years to build up his confidence. He said he thought I saw past all of that I loved him for who he was, not for how he looked. But after everything, now he's not so sure. He doesn't know if I ever really loved him for him. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I had never thought about how my jokes, my remarks, were just reinforcing all the insecurities he spent years trying to overcome. I thought I was being funny, being playful, but in reality, I was just tearing him down, little by little. And now, I've torn him down to the point where he doesn't want to be with me anymore. We talked for a long time, but the conclusion was the same. Troy doesn't want to be in this relationship anymore. He's tired of feeling like he's not enough, tired of being hurt by the person who's supposed to love him the most. And hearing him say that, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I finally realized the full weight of what I've done. I hadn't been loving him the way he deserved. I hadn't been the partner he thought I was. I had been so focused on being liked, on being funny and getting laughs, that I never thought about what that was doing to him. So yeah, I want to fight for us. I want him to give us a second chance. But to be completely honest, I'm ashamed. How do you beg someone who you've spent years mocking to forgive you? How do I tell Troy that I'm sorry, that I want to make it right when I've been the source of so much of his pain? I don't even know where to start. I'm moving out soon. That's something we agreed on. I'll be moving back in with my parents for now. I've already called them and explained the situation, and they're sending my brother over to help me pack up. My parents are ashamed of me too. They called Troy to apologize on my behalf, which honestly made everything feel worse. They told me they've always noticed my snide remarks, that they knew I was treating him badly, and I lost it on them. I screamed at them, asking why they didn't say anything. Why didn't they sit me down and tell me to stop if they noticed how awful I was being? If someone, anyone, had talked to me, maybe I would have stopped before it got this bad. But they didn't. And now I'm going to lose Troy. I don't want to lose him. I love him, and I'm realizing now just how much I've taken him for granted. I want to fight for us. I want to make things right. But I don't know how. How do I make him see that I'm truly sorry? How do I make him believe that I can change, that things can be different? How do I make him look past all the hurt I've caused and give me another chance? I don't know what to do. I've messed up so badly, and now I'm afraid it's too late to fix it. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm so sorry I haven't updated in a while. Honestly, I've been really busy wallowing in my misery and drowning in self-guilt. I don't even know what to say at this point or how to feel. I'm still trying to salvage things, still fighting for us, but it feels like I'm the only one putting in any effort. I suggested therapy. I suggested couples counseling. I begged him to consider anything that could help us work things out, but he flat out refused. So, I eventually moved out to my parents' place. I hate it here, I really do. It feels suffocating. Every time I walk into the house, I'm reminded of how much I messed up, and it's all my fault. And my parents don't make it any easier. They keep saying it over and over like I'm a broken record. You messed up, they tell me. It's all your fault. You made your bed, now lie in it. Thanks for the reminder, Mom. Just what I needed. I hate it. I hate myself. I hate everything. It's like I'm stuck in this loop of regret and sadness. I keep replaying that night in my head, wishing I could go back and change my words, my actions. I can't escape the feeling of dread that settled in my chest. I can't escape the fact that I've lost the one person who meant the world to me. Every single day feels heavier than the last, and I just don't know how to lift this weight off my shoulders. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I was served divorce papers. Divorce papers. My heart sank when I saw them. I didn't even know how to react. Part of me felt like I deserved it, like this was the ultimate punishment for the way I treated him. But another part of me was just crushed, devastated that it had come to this. I've been crying all week, and nobody seems to care enough to console me. My parents just keep reiterating how I brought this upon myself, how I should have treated Troy better. I get it. I know I fucked up. I know I made mistakes, but I'm tired of hearing it. I'm exhausted from feeling this way. I want to fight for him. I want to show him that I can change, that I can be the partner he deserves, but it feels hopeless now. Every time I try to talk about it, I just get shut down. I don't know how to make things right when he's made up his mind. I just feel so defeated. How do I move forward from this? How do I pick up the pieces of my life when I feel like I've shattered everything? I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just so tired. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm so sorry I haven't updated in a while. I've been so miserable. It's gotten so bad that my parents actually signed me up for therapy because they're really worried about me. I guess I should say thanks, Mom. The first bit of concern you've shown me in the midst of all this is signing me up for therapy. But hey, at least it's something, right? It just feels like a slap in the face when you think about how you've blamed me for everything that's gone wrong in my life. So, the divorce has been finalized. I fainted in the courtroom. Yes, I cringe when I think about it now. It was embarrassing, to say the least. Troy panicked when it happened, and I guess, thankfully, there's still that little part of him that cares, because he genuinely looked worried. When I woke up a few seconds later, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think it was just shock. But after that, the divorce was finalized. It didn't take very long, unfortunately. We had no debts, no marital assets to fight over, and of course, I didn't qualify for spousal support since we hadn't been married for long. So yeah, that's it. The house was his, and it feels like my life is over. I always thought Troy was the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and now here I am, starting from scratch. And now I'm going to have to go back to the workforce. How the hell am I supposed to go back to a 9-to-5 job? I can't even imagine it. It's like I'm walking into an unknown world, and I feel so unprepared. I hate my life, I hate myself, I hate everything about how things turned out. I hate Troy for not giving me a second chance. I hate my friends for taking his side in all of this. I feel so isolated, like I've lost my support system. Troy isn't even as bad looking as I made him sound. I was just so obsessed with good looks and being with someone conventionally attractive that I overlooked everything else that made him an amazing person. I hate myself for that. Yes, I regret it. I feel like a complete waste of space, and I keep spiraling deeper into this pit of self-loathing. My parents are trying to help me, telling me I need to get a job, but how am I supposed to get a job when I can't even take care of myself? I can barely get out of bed some days. I feel like I'm drowning in this misery, and I don't know how to swim back to the surface. How the hell am I supposed to manage a job when I can't even manage my own life? It feels hopeless, like I'm just going through the motions of existing without actually living, whatever. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just lost. Hey Reddit, my name is Sophia, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a sales representative in a small company, but I'm well paid, and I love my job. So I am in desperate need of advice. I think I may have ruined my marriage and pushed my husband away. The thing is, we agreed on an open marriage, but he instantly went for my best friend, and now he's loving it. But I am feeling very angry about it, even though I was the one who suggested it in the first place. I have been married to Adam, my husband, for 6 years, and we don't have any children yet. That is literally my fault because I kept putting off having kids, because I felt I wasn't ready for them yet, and because I felt they would cramp up my lifestyle. I met Adam back in university, where I was struggling with one of my courses. It was a math-related course, and I obviously was just the worst with maths. My best friend, Carrie, had introduced him to me because he had always been good in maths. So he started tutoring me, and then we started developing feelings for each other. And when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I eagerly said yes. We dated throughout college, and those days were the best days of our lives. My best friend, Carrie, had always been happy for us and had never shown any sign of jealousy. In fact, when Adam and I got together, She had been in a committed relationship, so it surprises me so much that now she's together with Adam. I mean, she's supposedly my best friend. And even though I had suggested an open marriage to Adam, I did not think she would even be one person Adam would date, or that she would even agree to it. Carrie and I go way back. We had been best friends for almost 20 years, ever since my parents and I moved into Carrie's hometown in search of a new place to settle and start a small business. We met in kindergarten and we became very close. Soon, we were the best of friends and couldn't do without each other. Our parents became close because of our own friendship, and it had been a fun year growing up. When Carrie had her first menstrual cycle, I was there with her, because Carrie tended to have very serious menstrual cramps. When I had mine, she was also the first to know. She knew about my first crush, and I knew about hers too. We even worked extra hard to go to the same college, though we studied different things. Carrie is a calligrapher and is also a designer. I was also the first to know about her first heartbreak. In fact, all the heartbreaks, because one way or another, whenever a guy took an interest in Carrie and then met me, they switched their interest to me and left Carrie heartbroken. I rejected all of them, of course, because I didn't want to hurt my best friend further, but I guess it somehow became part of the regular things that happened in our lives. Whenever anyone got interested in Carrie, they met me and then dumped Carrie. One time, Carrie hid her relationship from me. It went on for about a month and a half before Carrie finally introduced the guy to me, but despite the fact that they had been together for a while, the guy still eventually did the same thing. Funny that, at that time, I had been dating Adam, so I hadn't even been interested in any other guy. Carrie was really hurt and wouldn't speak to me for a week, but eventually spoke to me after realizing it really wasn't my fault. Carrie got so used to being put down as the less beautiful one wherever we went. Even her own parents did that too. Whenever I went to their house to see Carrie when we were younger, her parents, especially her mom, would chide Carrie for not being like me or dressing the way I did. At first, I was uncomfortable with the attention I was getting at the expense of my best friend, but eventually it became a normal thing, and I just didn't mind. It is only as I write this that I realize just how silly my actions had been. But at the time, I was happy being called beautiful, and it made me careless about Carrie's feelings. I dated Adam throughout college, like I wrote earlier, but I wasn't entirely committed to him, though he never knew until we were married. Not that I wasn't in love with Adam, I was, but it was like I wasn't exactly satisfied being trapped in one relationship. I felt like I needed to explore, because one minute I'm entertained, and the next I'm bored out of my mind. Don't get me wrong, Adam was never boring or failing as a partner and as a lover, but I was just bored. You see, I think I may have taken the advice given to me by my aunt too seriously. My Aunt Amelia, my father's sister, was a very carefree woman. She had 3 kids, but none of them lived with her because she had been in her 5th relationship and had refused to get married and had abandoned my cousins with our grandmother. She never visited except on very rare occasions, and when she did, she would always say to me in private that being with one man sucked and that it was rather exciting to be open to seeing others. I remember she would pat my head after saying things like that and wink at me playfully. She probably thought I wouldn't understand what she meant at the mere age of 9, but strangely I did, and it somehow became my principle. I loved Aunt Amelia so much back then, and I had always secretly wished she had been my mom rather than my uptight, overprotective mother. My mother would say being in several relationships at once only showcased how shallow-minded the person was, and of course there's no doubt who she addressed with those comments. But my Aunt Amelia was never affected. It was like she had a mind made out of iron that could take anything that was coming. I never knew that Aunt Amelia's lifestyle actually stuck with me for that long because it had been a long time. I mean, many years had already passed, so I had never really even thought about it over the years. But when I started dating Adam, although we did all the usual things couples did, hung out, had several dates, texted, got gifts for each other, and sex was even an interesting part of our relationship, it still just wasn't enough for me. It was like I felt the need to be free. From what exactly? I wouldn't know, but I just kept feeling like that, and I did not understand the feeling until I first cheated on Adam. It had been a random party that I was invited to. I was supposed to go with Carrie and Adam, but Carrie had been down with a bug, and Adam had a test the next day that was quite important to him, so I went alone. I hadn't even wanted to go because the only two people I'd have liked to go with weren't able to go, but they had both convinced me to go and have fun on their behalf. So I went with the intention of just dashing in and out so I could just say hi to the birthday girl who invited me. But the party wasn't like anything I had imagined it'd be. I had thought it'd be just some casual, usual birthday party with songs, a few drinks, a cake, and only a few people. But when I got there, apparently, she had invited some guys from another school over, and it was so crazy, everything that was happening. There were drugs, and sex was happening in every spot you turned to. I was so hot and bothered, and I decided to leave without even saying hello to the birthday girl. It was when I was trying to squeeze myself through dancing couples that I bumped hard into someone, and I started to apologize. But when I lifted my head, my mouth literally dried up, and my brain became a fussed mass that couldn't process anything. The guy, whom I later got to know as Cameron, was so hot, and he smiled down at me because he was just so tall, and the way his cheeks dimpled when he did just had me wrapped. He offered to buy me a drink, and I somehow forgot that I was supposedly leaving, and just accepted the request, and followed him to the bar, like some dummy being controlled. Soon enough, I regained my sense of speech, and we talked for a while. Well, not exactly talking. We were literally just flirting and giving each other the eye. You know, that undressing each other with your eyes thing. Well, we continued drinking and talking, and somehow it slipped out of my mouth that I was in a relationship. Instead of Cameron being turned off, he told me that we weren't planning to date each other. Just having fun at a party would be the term for what we were doing. I got tipsy after finishing half a bottle of alcohol. I had never been one for alcohol because I could even get drunk on a can of beer. I had sex with Cameron that night in one of the rooms, somehow forgetting the fact that I had some friends at that party. People who knew I was dating Adam. I blamed everything on the drink, though, and never mentioned it to Adam or even Carrie, my best friend, because I was kind of afraid she'd judge me. The next day, I had expected to feel some guilt or heaviness at heart for actually cheating on Adam, but none of that happened. I felt somehow excited, like it was the big break I needed, something like that. I'm not saying I didn't feel bad for cheating on Adam, because I knew how much I loved him, and still love him to this day, but that giddy feeling kind of overrode the sense of guilt I had. But then I became really scared because anybody from the party could walk up to Adam and tell him what I did. So I started hanging out with Adam even more than usual, so no one would get the chance to tell him anything. But whenever someone approached Adam or asked to see him, I panicked. A month passed before I was able to relax, realizing no one was going to snitch on me. Cameron and I did not even contact each other after that night, and honestly, I wasn't even bothered. He was hot, and he certainly had been my type, but I still did not see myself having more than just one night of hot, passionate sex. So I eventually forgot about Cameron. I cheated on Adam twice while we were in college. The first had been with Cameron, and the second time was with James, a friend of Adam's who had come visiting from home for 2 weeks. I had wanted to visit Adam that day, but I hadn't called ahead like I usually did, so I just went there thinking Adam was going to be around, but he wasn't. Instead, it had been his friend who was actually making out with some random girl on Adam's sofa. When I walked in, the girl had quickly left, probably embarrassed that she was seen making out with someone she had just met, and James, not knowing who I was, jokingly told me that I had just walked in on what might have been good sex and told me I had to make up for it. James looked crazily like Cameron. I mean, not facially, but they had the same physique and the same cheeky expression on their faces. But my first thought about him hadn't been sex, though, like it had been with Cameron, so when he said that, I laughed. We started talking about random things, and I asked about Adam. He told me that Adam had stepped out quickly to get some groceries to cook. Soon, Adam joined us, introduced his friend to me, and cooked that evening. We all ate while relating like old-time friends. All 4 of us, Adam, James, Carrie, and I, hung out together throughout his stay, and it was really fun. I knew that Carrie liked James, and I even encouraged her to make her move on him. But James only seemed interested in one person, me. He didn't even care that I was in a relationship with his old friend, and he just flirted seriously with me, especially whenever he managed to get me alone. I enjoyed the flirting, so I didn't exactly discourage him from it, so I guess that gave off the vibe that I liked him. One day, when Adam stepped out to get us more drinks while we were playing some games, James made a move on me. He kissed me, and the crazy thing was that I didn't push him away. I kissed him back just until I felt his hand on my breast. I pushed him away then, and Adam walked in at that moment. I had been so glad I pushed him away when I did, because I couldn't imagine Adam walking in on us kissing like starved people. James had to leave a few days later because his holiday was up and he had to get back. I didn't have sex with James, though. Yes, I know that I mentioned earlier that I cheated on Adam with James, but that was simply because of the kiss. I mean, kissing someone else, especially when you're in a relationship, could still be regarded as cheating, right? So, anyway, for the rest of our college days, I stuck to Adam. I didn't cheat on him or anything like that again. Our graduation was just the best. It was quite memorable for me because it happened to be one of the best days of my life. Aside from graduating and getting an award that day, Adam got down on his knees in front of everyone and proposed to me. It was so romantic and cute. The crowd went wild, screaming and clapping and whistling. I had been so surprised because prior to that day, he had never mentioned anything about marriage. We never really discussed the future. I was a person who enjoyed living in the moment, so I wasn't particular about the future because I didn't want to be anxious about it. Aunt Amelia would always say worrying about your future would just make you a bundle of nerves. Why don't you just live in the moment and enjoy it and take everything as it comes? So when Adam went up to the stage while we were being addressed by one of our student council members, and he whispered something in her ear, she grinned sheepishly and left the stage, giving the mic to Adam. I had been surprised and looked at Carrie, and she shrugged, not knowing what was going on either. Adam had this long speech note in his hand, and when we later got home and I teased him about it, he told me he didn't want to forget anything he wanted to say, because they were important to him to say every word. When he started to speak, he began with how he met me, and how his first thought when he saw me had been, "I have to have this girl be mine." Then he proceeded to say how dating me had been one of his best school experiences, but he didn't want our relationship to end with school because he knew there should be an us beyond the school walls. Since he didn't want to lose me, he wanted to make things official and trap me before anyone got the chance to convince me to be theirs. Then he left the stage after finishing his speech and came to me in the middle of the crowd, locating me with ease because people just parted and let him through. When he got to me, he got down on one knee with a ring in his hand and asked me to marry him. By that time, I was already crying, and I didn't even realize it until I said yes, and he slipped the ring on my finger and then wiped my tears with his thumb before kissing me. My parents were somewhere in the crowd, but amidst all the cheering and congratulations, it took them a while before they got to us. My mom hugged me tightly, very happy for me, while my dad softly slapped his hand on Adam's back, congratulating him and telling him to take care of me. Oh, I realized I hadn't mentioned before that Adam had actually met my parents before then. We had gone to visit my parents one holiday so they could meet my boyfriend. Apparently, Adam had taken a secret trip to ask my parents for permission to marry their daughter. They had given it, and he told them about his plans to propose on our graduation day. I never even suspected anything, and it had been so romantic, making me love him even more. I knew that single act of his, asking my parents first before actually proposing to me, made my parents love him all the more. We didn't get married almost immediately, though. We wanted to get our jobs first, and then buy a house before we got married, so our marriage didn't happen until a year after school. Then I had gotten my job at the company, and Adam had landed himself a job in a big shot company. Of course, because he was brilliant and smart, he quickly became an asset to the company, and within the first 6 months of working there, he had been promoted twice. We were able to buy a house within a year because Adam began earning a lot of money. We bought a house from an old couple who had decided that they wanted to start a backpacking trip. So they sold the house to pay for their trip. We had to do some work on the house, though, because it was old, though still very beautiful. We added a few things here and there, bought new furniture, and moved in. Adam was the one who tended to our garden, which was left to us by the old couple. I couldn't do it, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how. Every plant I touched seemed to die. I remember one time when I got a plant for a class project back in high school. We were supposed to tend to the plants and grow them. Well, I failed that class because my plant never grew, no matter what I did. Believe me, I went through the routines thoroughly. So after that time, I avoided plants because I knew what I could do to them. And again, the garden was too beautiful to die in my hands, so I just admired it from afar while Adam worked on it. We got married in my parents' church, and we had a small celebration. I didn't want something too extravagant because I didn't feel the need for it. Adam was happy to go along with it because he wanted our day to be special, and it really was. Our wedding day was really memorable for us, and the pictures that fill our living room show it. Carrie, of course, was my maid of honor, and she was also the one who caught the bouquet I threw that day. My job wasn't too stressful because the computer did most of the work I had to do. I left work early enough, earlier than Adam all the time, and my weekends were mine to spend however I wanted. Since I was usually home before Adam, I always cooked him dinner and waited around for him to come back so we could eat together and talk about our day. It was kind of the bonding moment we had. Adam's work was more stressful than mine, and since he was literally the brain of his company, his time and attention were in more demand than usual. Sometimes, even on weekends, he was busy with one project or another. On those weekends when he was busy, I would visit Carrie, or she'd come over to my place, and we would chat and gossip all day. Carrie had a relationship after school. He was even her date to my wedding. But they were only together for 2 years before she found out he was married with 4 kids. She was so devastated, and it took her almost a year to get over the breakup. Another time, one guy, Tim, seemed interested in her. I had pestered her to introduce me to the guy because I wanted to see the person she was always talking about, and she had taken me with her on a dinner date with Tim. The same thing happened. Tim flirted with me endlessly, and I went along with it, forgetting the fact that I was there for Carrie. Carrie was upset after that and refused to talk to Tim anymore, and when I asked her why, she refused to say. I started to feel like Carrie was jealous of me. It was obvious I was more beautiful than she was, and that every guy would definitely want to be involved with me, and I felt like it wasn't my fault. One time, I even told her to be grateful she had someone like me to help filter out the bad guys that weren't sincere with her. Adam's company needed some work on graphic design, and he told me he wanted Carrie to do the job, but I discouraged him. At that time, I felt like Carrie wasn't going to do a great job, especially with a high-level company like Adam's. In my mind, I didn't exactly want to embarrass both of us by doing a bad job. Adam wasn't convinced and said he was sure she would do a great job. So he went ahead and took the business proposition to her, and she gladly accepted. I became so angry with Adam and refused to speak to him for days. When Carrie asked why I wasn't speaking to my husband, I told her the truth, and Carrie didn't even react. Now that I think about it as I write this, I realize how selfish I had been, and how I took our friendship for granted and made her feel so small. On our 5th anniversary, Adam and I had planned a trip to celebrate our anniversary, but 2 days before the planned trip, Adam had a work emergency he couldn't get away from. I was so mad at him that I decided to go on the trip myself without him. I asked Carrie to go with me, but she had been working with Adam too, so she couldn't leave. I went on the trip alone, and that was where I met Alex. Alex was a chef at a restaurant I ate at. Alex had been my type of guy, and he was also a chef. I was fascinated at first and curious about his cooking skills, and he taught me 1 or 2 of his secret recipes. Of course, the teaching happened at his place whenever he wasn't working, which was mostly in the evenings. We would make some of his recipes together, eat, and talk late into the night before I went back to my hotel. I had taken a month's leave from work, so I decided to extend my stay under the pretense of learning new recipes, pretending like I hadn't been staying because I wanted to spend more time with Alex. It was inevitable when we started having sex. I mean, maybe it wasn't. But I didn't exactly avoid the situation. Alex, of course, knew I was married because sometimes Adam would call me in his presence and ask about my welfare, but he didn't seem bothered by it. I wasn't bothered either that he had a fiancée who wasn't living around there because of the nature of her job. To us, we were just having casual sex with no strings attached. When the month was up and I had to leave, Alex was quite pained and wanted me to stay longer, but I couldn't, as I had to get back to work and also to my husband. When I got home, I told Carrie about my affair, and she was shocked and became angry on Adam's behalf. I dismissed her anger as nothing because I felt she wasn't even the one I was cheating on. Alex and I kept in touch, exchanging texts and sometimes calls. Most weekends that I usually spent with Carrie became his. I would travel down to Alex's place, spend time with him, and then come back in time for Monday's work. Adam became suspicious of my weekly travels, and whenever he asked, I lied that I had enrolled in a cooking class and couldn't waste the money. Whether or not he believed me, I wouldn't know, but he stopped asking about it. Sometimes Adam would make time to spend the weekend with me, but I wouldn't agree to it. I would rather spend the weekends with Alex than Adam. The funny thing is, I wasn't even in love with Alex, and he also wasn't in love with me. He was just teaching me recipes for free. Well, not for free if we consider sex as payment for the recipes. Carrie, after warning me several times to stop cheating, eventually stopped talking to me, and I didn't even mind. I mean, why would I? I had Alex. Or so I thought. One time Alex came visiting, and it happened to be one of those weekends when Adam was tied up with work and had to go on a work trip. So I invited Alex to come spend that day with me at my place. We did our usual thing, made food, tried out new recipes, had sex, and even watched movies together. We were halfway through the movie, but we didn't even know that because we were making out when Carrie walked in on us. At first I was scared, thinking it was Adam, but when I saw that it was actually Carrie, I calmed down and even went ahead to introduce Alex to Carrie. Carrie was just so shocked that she dumped the bag she brought with her on the floor, murmured a, "Never mind," and left. I was surprised to see her leave, and when I checked the contents of the bag, it contained our favorite junk food and some movies we had been anticipating watching together. We had promised to watch those movies when they came out, but one of them was already playing on the TV. She had obviously come to reconcile with me, and I had just ruined the chance of that happening. Alex dismissed her efforts and drew me back into his arms to continue where we left off, and I went along willingly, trying to dismiss the fact that I was probably losing a long-term friendship over something as fleeting as what was happening between Alex and me. Soon enough, I started to think about how inconvenient being involved with Alex was, especially since I had to lie every time about my whereabouts to Adam. I didn't feel free anymore, and I decided to suggest being in an open marriage to Adam. I knew it was absurd, but at that point, I was clearly not thinking straight. When I told Alex about it, he supported my decision because, according to him, he wanted to see me properly without worrying about getting caught by Adam. Proud that I was making the right decision, I waited for a time when Adam would be at home, relaxed and happy. That time came soon enough as Adam was given leave from work, and he was home most of the day, tending to the garden. He even prepared meals for me before I got back from work. Sometimes he'd take me out to dinner at popular restaurants, pick me up from work, and take me to work. It was really sweet, and I enjoyed all the attention so much that I even stopped visiting Alex. That got Alex agitated, and he would call and text me several times a day, but it was always bad timing, so I couldn't return his calls or reply to his texts. I was either at work most of the day or with Adam for the rest of the day, so there was no time in between to talk to him. That weekend, I had been planning to tell Adam about the open marriage idea. I even decided to cook for us and got up early that morning to make breakfast using one of Alex's recipes. But I made a mistake. I left my phone in the bedroom with my husband. I was setting the dining table when Adam walked in, his eyes red with anger, holding my phone. I immediately understood what had happened. Apparently, Alex had texted again, asking when I was coming, if I had told my husband about the open marriage, and that he missed me. Specifically, he missed having sex. My husband had read that text. I knew I had to act fast before things got out of hand, and the only thing I could say was that I was sorry. I told Adam that I had intended to tell him before that day, and that I felt it would be better and even more exciting if we had other partners despite being married. So I suggested that we have an open marriage. Adam had laughed, and then he instantly agreed. I was surprised that he agreed, but what he did next shocked me more. He left and was gone for 2 whole days, leaving me anxious and scared about what he'd do. When he came back on the 3rd day, he was chippy and happy. I was surprised by the change and happy that he saw things my way. Adam started making long phone calls right in front of me, laughing harder than I had ever seen him laugh. It made me jealous. When I asked him who was making him so happy, he told me that he finally saw the value in having an open marriage and that it was the best thing I could have suggested. He even told me I knew who he was seeing and that he would introduce us the next day. I felt angry and frustrated. I know I had suggested it and had even cheated first, but I hadn't expected him to find someone that fast, and it made me really jealous. Well, the next day came, and guess who it was that my husband was seeing? It was Carrie, my best friend. I was so shocked and thought it was all a facade, but now it's been a whole month, and Carrie and Adam are always together, giving me absolutely no chance or time with Adam. I'm really frustrated and unhappy, and I think I'm losing Adam so fast. Please, guys, I really need your advice. What can I do to get Adam to look at me again? Update. Hello, Reddit. The past few weeks have been hell for me, especially after I made this post to ask for advice. I might as well have just kept my mouth shut and continued enduring the pain of seeing my own best friend with my husband. But instead, I thought it wise to tell my story and ask for any suggestions to get my husband back again. But you guys obviously made me realize just how stupid that decision was. The insults and trolling have been too much for me to handle. When I came here for advice, I hadn't exactly expected to be applauded for my actions. But somehow, in my twisted mind, I had expected that maybe after reading my story, someone would relate and give me advice that would work. But the opposite has been the case so far. The worst pain is seeing Carrie and Adam not even bothering to hide their relationship, rubbing it in my face, and I cannot even complain because I was the one who shot myself in the foot. Alex and I are no longer together. Our affair stopped the day Adam found out about it. I just couldn't bring myself to cheat anymore. I feel so stupid and ashamed of everything I've done. These past few weeks have allowed me to self-reflect a lot, and I realize just how much I've hurt the people I claim to love the most. I hurt Adam by cheating, not once but 3 times, and still had the audacity to rub it in his face. I hurt Carrie by always trying to make her feel small and insecure. But guess who is now so small, insecure, and hurt? Me. My parents, after hearing about what happened, tried to intervene, but when they found out about my part in all of this, they stopped speaking to me as well, though they still call Adam and even Carrie to check up on them. I feel so lonely. Carrie has even moved into our home now and acts like the wife instead of me. It feels really painful watching them get all loved up every day. I wish I had thought about Adam's feelings before I ever thought of cheating on him. One time, I managed to get Adam alone, and I apologized to him, begging him to stop tormenting me. Adam told me that he was not tormenting me, only following the path I had laid. That kept me quiet, and since then, all I can do is watch the both of them. I feel so broken on the inside, like my heart keeps shattering into pieces over and over again. I wish I had never pushed Adam that far. I guess I never realized until now the consequences of my actions. I feel so empty, and yet this emptiness hurts because I have no one to even talk to. Even here is filled with people that hate me. Update. Hello, Reddit. This is my last post here. It's been 3 months now. 3 torturous, long months. 3 months of watching my husband grow more fond of my best friend at my expense. 3 months of backlashing comments. 3 months of agony. 3 months of regret and wishes that might never come true. It's just been 3 months. I wonder how 6 months or 9 months, or even a year or 2 years from now, will look if just 3 months is already this painful. I'm not looking forward to the rest of my life right now. Thanks and goodbye.